Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Just as all of us find joy in traveling with Papa in quest of God, today we are traveling with Papa again to various places which have been chronicled in Call of the Devotee. The purpose of going through is not to travel with him just like that. Everywhere when the Mahatmas go, they share some thoughts, they happen to witness, they make a note of certain activities which will be definitely helpful for a spiritual aspirant. So what is required is an attentive here, where we try to find out what is it that I can take it home. Otherwise the reading becomes a reading session. It doesn't become a part of the satsang. In the preface, he himself writes, even in the title, Call of the Devotee, is an incontinuation of In the Vision of God. One may ask why the present book goes by the name Call of the Devotee. The name just fits in for the tour of 1936, occasioned by the call of Pestunji Pirjosha of Bombay, who was so eager to see Ramdas but was unable to come to the ashram owing to illness. Then again the second and third tours became possible by the ardent request of the devotees of Sholapur, Bombay, Karachi, UP, Bengal, Kashmir and other places. The 1949 tour was the result of a pathetic call of the ailing prince Pratap Singh of Limbdi, who had come to Bangalore for a change. Until Ramdas left Anandashram on these tours, he had hardly any idea about leaving the ashram. He used to say that God did not will that he should move out of the ashram. These calls came to him almost suddenly, without any previous notice. Ramdas could not resist them. He had simply to bow to the will of God, who commanded him to respond immediately. The devotee's call is as good as God's call. In Ramdas's divinized and all-comprehensive vision, God and his devotee are one. It is God who controls Ramdas's life. Every little or great action of his is actuated by God, who dwells within him and everywhere. Tour 1936, Bombay. In April 1936, Ramdas received a letter from the sister of Pestonji Pirjosha, Pirojsha of Bombay, that her brother was badly suffering from jaundice and that blessings be sent for his recovery. The letter came one evening and Ramdas informed Mataji of its contents. The following morning she inquired of him as to what reply he was going to give to the letter. Ramdas said he was thinking of sending a wire of blessings for the friend's recovery. She at once said, "You know that Pestonji has been thirsting for your darshan for a long time and has invited you on several occasions. In this hour of his serious illness, it is but proper that you should go and bless him in person and also thereby fulfill his long-cherished desire." Now the die was cast. Ramdas, who had at the will of Ram refused to move out of the ashram for about 7 years, in spite of the repeated calls of friends from various provinces, started straight away, and within an hour he was at the railway station. He took with him nothing but a spare cowpea and a small bag which he hung on his shoulder under the loose cloth that covered the upper part of the body. Everybody can visualize now, no? Then we start planning what all we do. See the baggage which we carry. So many things, when we keep on thinking about it. Not only that he is free from possessions, even the possessiveness is also not there. Spontaneous, everything spontaneous. At the Victoria terminus, Ramdas was welcomed by a large group of devotees. On arrival at Pestonji's place, Ramdas had a hearty embrace from Pestonji. Then bhajan, puja, distribution of prasad took place. On completion of the bhajan, U. Sanjeeva Rao requested Ramdas to go to his house for the night, as it was Ekadashi, and they had arranged a bhajan. Sri Krishnaji's grandfather. No? At Sanjeeva Rao's, the bhajan went on with great enthusiasm till a late hour, till a late hour in the night. Even after that, Ramdas went on talking to some selected devotees who stayed in the house. In the course of the talk, he told them in humorous vein the circumstances that led to his leaving the ashram. For the sake of Peshtonji, he jumped at the idea as he would no longer be tied down to the work of churning curds, which was his share of work in the ashram at that time. He credited it as nothing short of a providential escape. This admission brought forth roars of laughter. We can imagine, near the Shanti Nivas, he must have been doing like this, with no upper cloth, and suddenly Mataji coming and telling, immediately he started. In half an hour he is in the station. The next morning Ramdas went back to Peshtonji's rooms in the car that was sent by him and returned to Sanjeev Rao's by 8:30. By this time all the Bombay devotees, having got the news of Ramdas's arrival, had flocked at Sanjeev Rao's place. The rooms, the gallery, every nook and corner of the house were occupied by him. After half an hour's bhajan, Ramdas was asked by Sanjeev Rao to say a few words on Satsang. All were expectantly waiting to hear Ramdas. There was perfect silence. Then two small boys started laughing, which led Ramdas to speak for an hour. Ramdas said, "Look at these children, how happy they are. Satsang must have produced in them this joyous mood. Satsang is an important step in the evolution of the soul to its spiritual destiny. In the company of saints, an aspirant gets the impetus and inspiration to do all the needed sadhana for self-purification, which is essential for the realization of the divine. Saints have gone beyond the gunas and dandvas. Their vision is universal. They look upon all beings and creatures as the manifestations of their eternal beloved. They live always in a state of super consciousness. The easy method of concentration on the supreme goal, God, is to chant constantly His sweet and holy name. The name is sweeter than nectar. Its votary enjoys ineffable bliss. At the end of the talk, Ramdas requested the audience to sing Ramnam for 10 minutes. The function came to a close with Arati and distribution of prasad. One afternoon, when he was spending the day with Peshtonji as usual, many Parsi friends came. Among them, a young Parsi lady was much attracted to Ramdas, and when she first saw him, and she made it a point to come to see him every day. In the course of the talk, she asked Ramdas the question, why do some people not aspire for God, and even if they do so, why can they not easily fix their minds on him? Ramdas in reply quoted the parable related by Sri Ramakrishna about the three kinds of people who were the mudworm, the housefly and the honeybee. He said there are some whose minds are always reveling in thoughts of sense pleasures, like the mudworm, which wallows in dirt and finds its pleasure only in it. The worm feels quite miserable when it is taken out and placed in a clean spot. So persons of this type, when they find themselves in the company of saints, feel very uncomfortable. The second class is like the housefly, which takes pleasure in sitting on fragrant and delicious dishes, as also on dirt and filth. Aspirants of this type find delight in the society of saints, as also in the enjoyment of the senses. The third type of aspirant is like the honeybee, which seeks only honey and sits on sweet-smelling flowers and sucks the nectar from them. It is never attracted by anything filthy. The aspirants who are like the honeybee find joy only in the contact of saints and in the remembrance, meditation and service of God. They have no craving for sense pleasures. Their one all-consuming aspiration is for God vision, and nothing else. In chanting his name, they are raised to a state of perfect joy and peace. On Ramdas's coming to end of this discourse, the young lady promptly exclaimed, "Then I am the housefly, for now I am going to a cinema." This remark evoked laughter from the assembled visitors. Another day, a Parsi devotee jocularly remarked, pointing to this lady, "What is the secret of this girl coming to see you every day, almost at the same hour?" To this Ramdas's reply was, "She is like the peacock of the story." A sadhu was living in a hut on the borders of the forest and was given to taking opium. One evening, a peacock came to him dancing. This was the time when the sadhu took his dose of opium. While doing this, he offered a pellet of opium to the peacock, which swallowed it. Soon after, the peacock, having got intoxicated, started dancing with great glee and went away. The next day, exactly at the same hour, the peacock was at the hour, ready to receive a pellet again. At this point, the young lady interjected, "I am the peacock." Thereafter, she was nicknamed Peacock. Whenever she came to Pestonti's place, she was greeted with the name. Whenever Ramdas was invited for bhajan and bhiksha to the houses of devotees, he was invariably asked to deliver a discourse on some spiritual subject selected by the host. He spoke mainly on three topics: Ramnam, Satsang. For self-purification, Ramdas emphasized, there was no simpler way than the chanting of the divine name. In the society of saints, God, who considered in the heart of the aspirant, gradually revealed himself. God, who resided in the heart of the aspirant, gradually revealed himself. The experience of the devotee's union with God was simply wonderful. The devotee felt that he was one with the beloved and was still his lover. In his speeches, Ramdas compared and reconciled the teachings of Krishna and Christ. Krishna said, the highest vision was to realize God within oneself as well as in all beings and creatures. Christ taught, the kingdom of God is within you. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Here Ramdas pointed out, thyself should have a capital S in self as it stood for God himself. When Ramdas was wandering as a beggar, having God's name always on his lips, some of his relatives and friends were feeling great sympathy for him, for his life of hardships and destitution. Referring to this, Ramdas observed, they did not know that Ramdas was all the time enjoying a rare bliss and peace undreamt of by the greatest monarchs in the world. Often sufferings and tribulations really help in bringing us nearer to God and enabling us to enjoy sweet communion with Him. And to drive home this truth, he told the devotees the story of Kunti Devi, the mother of Pandavas. When she was in great trouble, she took refuge in Lord Krishna and had always his sweet name on her lips. Gradually she got over her fears and a strange peace and joy filled her heart. After winning the Mahabharata war and installing her son Yudhishthira on the throne, Krishna went to take leave of her before departing for Dwarka and wanted her to ask him for a boon. She replied calmly, O Lord, give me difficulties and tribulations so that I and my children may continue to remember you. In our days of sorrow, we remembered you and are thus enjoying everlasting peace, crowned with your radiant darshan. Kunti thus prayed for adversity in order that she may ever remain absorbed in the thought of God. How blessed then those must feel to whom God sends sufferings unasked. One day Ramdas had an invitation for bhiksha from a very devout Parsi lady, Mrs. Gulmai Gazdar. She received Ramdas with great love. After food she had some talk with him on spiritual matters. She confessed that her mind was often sluggish, as if the mental machinery refused to move. She wanted some lubricant which could make it run smoothly in the direction of God. Ramdas has replied, The most effective lubricant was God's name, and such a lubricant was always at hand. Now, when this talk was going on, Ramdas sitting on a cot and the Parsi mother on a chair in front of him, overhead was an electric fan working. At this point of the talk, by a strange coincidence, 4 or 5 drops of oil fell down from the motor of the electric fan. Immediately Ramdas remarked, "Here is the lubricating oil we have been wishing to have." We had a hearty laugh, and the mother was almost in ecstasy. Another day, Ramdas was invited by G. Ramaswamy, brother of Balaji, the manager of Anandashram. After the usual welcome, Ramdas was asked in the course of the talks why God should allow wars to take place. Ramdas replied, "It is an incontestable fact that nothing happens except by God's will. God is an all-powerful, all-wise, all-merciful parent and guardian of the world. He knows how best to adjust the forces that work in the world and nature. Whenever we look upon any problem relating either to an individual in particular or to mankind in general, we should do so in its proper setting against the background of the cosmic scene. These problems must not be viewed by themselves alone. Even with regard to the war then going on, Ramdas contended God's will alone was responsible. He said all things happen according to his inscrutable will. In the divine scheme, there is room also for the law of karma. Man reaps as he sows. The truth applies in all cases, whether of individuals or nations and at all times. G. Ramaswamy had arranged for a discourse and bhajan to be held at Astika Samaj, Mattunga. During the short discourse delivered on the occasion, Ramdas explained the true meaning of the word dharma and pointed out how dharma was a means to liberate oneself from the clutches of one's lower nature made up of the gunas and realize God as the deity of one's own heart. He summed up the discourse with the injunction: the first duty of everyone is to understand the significance of the teaching, know thyself. After a few days, on the invitation of N.M. Haldipur, Ramdas paid a visit to Sadbhakti Mandir of Jogeshwari, the suburb of Bombay. Ramdas had a hearty embrace there from the sign of the Mandir Sri Mangesh Ramachandra Taki, known as Sri Dada. Pressed by the devotees, Ramdas delivered a short discourse on the subject of divine love. The hall of the Mandir was filled with devotional rapture. Sri Dada also spoke on devotion in his inimitable Marathi, interspersing his talk with choice songs of Maharashtra saints. After the discourse, there was a brief conversation between Dada and Ramdas. Then Sri Dada took Ramdas to the sacred room in which the relics of his father and guru, Sri Ramachandra Shankar Taki Maharaj, were carefully preserved. There were also paintings of the Maharaj in that room. Ramdas found that the atmosphere within was highly pure and spiritual. The function terminated with Arati and Prasad. On another occasion, Rao Sahib G.V. Madhurkar invited Ramdas to Alibag. He was treated with great love by the Rao Sahib and his devoted wife Saraswati Bai. Here also Ramdas was asked to speak on the aim of life. In the course of his speech, Ramdas said, man tries to get peace and happiness. To achieve this purpose, he engages himself in the pursuit of name, fame, wealth, and other sense objects. But he soon finds out that this is not the way to get what he wants. Saints teach that real happiness can be got only by surrendering ourselves at the feet of the Lord. The Lord is not far away from us in distant caves, temples, or caves. He is the deity residing in our own hearts. It is by realizing His presence there, within us, that we are liberated from the worldly illusions. The qualities that we should cultivate in order to have His darshan are love, compassion, forgiveness. To develop these qualities, we should purify our mind by constantly repeating Ram Nam. It is through love and love alone that our vision expands and that we entitle ourselves to the grace of God. It must not be forgotten that Satsang, or the society of saying, is essential for the development of love, purity and selfless for the devotee to get God's darshan. So this covered the first group, that is 1936. Before we proceed, let us all try to understand what is important, what stands out in our mind. We are not worried about the chronological order.
One is Nama.
Nama is the lubricant. Nama is the purifier. Nama.
God is within us.
Huh?
God is
God is within us. Nama, the glory of the name, and the truth that Nama is within us. Then,
Satsang.
As far as possible, we must be
Free from possession.
free from possession. Free from possession.
Satsang.
Satsang is
Started with Satsang. The children were happy.
yeah, it is necessary. Then, very good. Yes. Anything else?
three types of devotees.
Huh?
Three types of devotees.
Three types of
Mudworms.
mudworms,
Houseflies.
honeybee. We are checking up which category we belong. Probably most of us belong to the housefly, Sometimes this, sometimes that. Then,
It is one more thing. It is one more. The sense of humor is
Opa's sense of humor. Buttermilk. Journey.
Only intoxication of God's name. Intoxication of God's name.
Intoxication.
Opium.
Peacock. When you said about the journey, most important is, apart from free from possession, you just visualize in your mind the scene, Not only possession, Mataji's deep concern for the ailing patient, knowing very well that Papa's body is also very weak. The moment he conveyed this, as a mother, she reminded Papa. Why reminded Papa? Motivated Papa. That aspect, you see. Because he is an embodiment of absence of otherness. Now, Kanangad is not the Kanangad of now. Bombay is not the Bombay now. From here, Papa had to walk to the station. There is no reservation. So how he must have travelled, That aspect he has not covered. He must be either sitting or standing or stretching himself on the doorway. The condition of the carriage is also different. In present generation, if they read this, they may not be able to understand. And in that, Mataji wanted Papa to go and meet him. Mataji was always concerned about Papa's health, was also equally concerned about Peshuji's. The first para itself makes us to think about it. For spirituality, we may not be able to reach the absence of otherness state, but at least, we make a resolve to move towards that. To as many people, broadening our love circle, where the quality, care and concern is extended to as many as possible. That is the first lesson we get when we take up this call of the devotee. And Papa's readiness to respond. And then, wherever he went, though he had mentioned about whom he met, everywhere he shared something what he has shared with them. That is the real purpose for all of us. That is why I remember about the 3 types of people. The glory of the divine name, the need for Satsang. Otherwise, if it is only a traveler, we will not remember. Aim of life. Yeah. He also says, and one more thing which nobody has so far said. The qualities we should cultivate in order to have is darshan. God is within. So I am not in a position to see him. I believe in the words of the Master. He is within me, but I don't know him. How am I to know him? To develop, he says, the qualities that we should cultivate in order to have his darshan are love, compassion and forgiveness. Love, compassion, forgiveness. If you closely analyze these 3 words, it is nothing but different forms of absence of otherness. To develop this quality, we should purify our mind by constantly chanting Ram. It is through love and love alone that our vision expands. And we entitle ourselves to the grace of the Lord. He is seated within me. He has not still blessed me to know that He is behind everything. That is because my mind is not yet pure. So I must intensely do Ram Nam with the purpose of removing this dirt. With an ardent aspiration to know Him, that He is within. And finally to have His darshan. So as a preparatory measure, he says, love, compassion, forgiveness. He is within us. We are still looking for Him outside. Why is it that we are not in a position to do that? The Parsi lady asked, What was she asked? One day Ramdas had an invitation for Bhiksha from a very devout Parsi lady. After food she confessed that her mind was often sluggish. As if the mental machinery refused to move, she wanted some lubricant which could make it run smoothly in the direction of God. Ramdas replied, the most effective lubricant was God's name. And such a lubricant was always at hand. Then, anything else? We will move to the second. Ahmedabad. The next place Ramdas was visited was Ahmedabad. Ramdas was there as the guest of Mahant Ram Pratap Das Ji in his Trandevi Mandir. Here all the inmates and sadhus were extremely kind to him. Ramdas has to mention here a unique incident that took place in the vast in this visit relating to another Mahant of Ahmedabad. A few days after Ramdas's arrival at the Mandir, the host Ram Pratap Das Ji was informed that a wealthy Mahant living a mile away was seriously ill and that his condition was so grave that it was only a question of few hours with him. On hearing this, the host's heart went out to the dying Mahant. He wished that the latter should have darshan of Ramdas and a few words of solace from him in his last moments. Immediately a Tonga was hired and Ramdas was taken to the dying Mahant's place. The Mahant was found lying on a cot, surrounded by his disciples. Ramapratap Das Ji introduced Ramdas to the patient and told him that at that closing hour of his life, he should direct his mind to God, give up all clinging to the transitory things of the world. The ailing Mahant was conscious, but in great pain. He had a bunch of keys in his hands, which slipped on the bed. Every now and then, as in his agony, he was rolling from one side to the other. As soon as the bunch of keys fell out of his hands, he would cry out, "Where are my keys?" And when they were placed again in his hand, he would close his fingers on them hard and tight. The bunch contained the keys of the iron safe, in which all the money he possessed was safely kept. The dying Mahant was unable to take his mind off his rich treasure. He had hardly any inclination to look at Ramdas or to think of God. Ram Pratap Das Ji was greatly disappointed. "Oh, what a fate," he said. Then the party returned to Trandevi Mandir. On reaching the Mandir, within an hour, news came that the ailing Madan had expired. It's a great reminder for all of us, no? Every now and then we check our fees. Possessions, possessiveness. Even though he had developed a lot of vairagya and he had renounced everything, but through that door, the tendency had come in. So even when the Mahant and Papa went there to remind him of the aim of life, ultimate aim of life, he couldn't take the mind off from the keys. So we should be very, very careful. If we are, by somehow God informs us of the day of departure, we should be prepared to prepare our mind to free ourselves from all. Even if he doesn't inform us, if we try to develop from now onwards some control on our possessiveness, it will definitely help. How can it develop? Each one has to work out. We have seen this in the case of many devotees. Even when they are old, they find it extremely difficult to extricate from themselves from this possessiveness. Not because they distrust anybody, not because they don't love anybody, but because of this, a strong inclination, strong vasanas. Unknowingly, very few people, when they reach a certain age, ensure that everything is to be taken care of by the next ones and slowly free themselves from everything. So it is not only meant for Mahan, it is for all of us. Limbadi. From Ahmedabad, Ramdas went to Viramgam, Vadwan, Limbadi. At Limbadi on a previous occasion, when he parted from Shabari Mai, the sugar candy mother, he had asked her to repeat Ramnam some lakhs of times, and he had told her that when she completed the number, he would come to her again. She had finished the stipulated japa and was expecting Ramdas. Ramdas was on his way to her cottage, and the mother was awaiting his arrival at a place where four roads meet. When Ramdas came near, the old mother Gangamai, who could hardly walk owing to her advanced age, threw away the stick which supported her, rushed towards him, giving him a hearty embrace. In a stuttering voice she said, "Oh my beloved, so at last I have met you again." Ramdas was thrilled. The kind Shabarimai had specially purchased milk on the previous night and had prepared buttermilk out of it for Ramdas. She had also got all the articles of puja ready. When Ramdas went to her house, she seated him on a bench decorated in her own humble way. Ramdas soon found that through excessive joy, Shabarimai was almost unconscious of her body and her surroundings. She sat down still in a state of trance for several minutes while all those who came with Ramdas were waiting expectantly for the puja. When she partially came to herself, she found that she was not able to stand or do the puja. She asked Kantilal and Maganlal, who were then in the party, to do the puja for her. After the puja, Ramdas left the place when the mother was still in the same semi-conscious state. When Ramdas had gone about 10 yards from her cottage, she suddenly woke up to find that Ramdas had not tasted the buttermilk that she had specially prepared as an offering. She rushed to the door, cried out to Magandal to bring back her ram for taking it. Ramdas retraced his steps to the mother's place and after drinking the buttermilk, departed from her. All glory to Shabarimai. Anybody would like to share anything? Ram, like Shabari of Ramayana. When Papa had told her to complete certain quota, no? He said he will come. He did not know this, or he did not plan for this. And she had been waiting. So she fulfilled her desire, and then bhakti, like Shabari is bhakti. Height of bhakti. And Papa readily responds, We remember, of course, incident, the care and concern, the love, the importance, nobody is irrelevant, nobody is insignificant, nobody is unimportant. In Palghat, when we were traveling with Puja Swami, we were all staying in Justice Tulsidas' sister's house. Our dinner was over, almost over, 99. Swamiji had finished. Krishnamai came with a vessel. Must be 9:15 in the night. So, as soon as she came, she saw everybody sitting in the dining hall, and I immediately said, the session is over. So Swamiji looked, what have you brought? Seva. Come on, come on. I still feel how happy everybody felt. Swamiji had almost finished. He was about to get up. Again we have a round. She cried out to Bhagavan to bring him back. Ramdas retraced his steps to the mother's place. After drinking the buttermilk, departed from there. Yes, then. Revaban was the kind mother who drew Ramdas from Dimbudi to Danduka. She was a widow who worked as a school mistress in the local girls' school. Her entire life was dedicated to God. Purity radiated from her face. Ramdas spent a few blissful days in her house, which was also occupied by her brother and his family. In the evenings, Ramdas was asked questions on various spiritual subjects by the assembled devotees. One put him this question: what should be done for attaining salvation? He replied, Ramdas is always amused when people ask such questions. You are he yourself, and you ask for the way to salvation. It is all your leela. Another time, replying to a similar question, Ramdas said, take any name of God you like and repeat it constantly. The name will enable you to attain salvation. While repeating the name, bear in mind that Ram, whose name you are chanting, is your own real being. Ram dwells within you. You are his temple. Wow. Ramdas also observed, in reply to another question, the world cannot be unreal. It all depends on the meaning we attach to the word real. All things last for some length of time. It is not proper to call the world an illusion. Ramdas said a person has to pass through many stages before he attains perfection. There are different planes to cross, and they become finer and finer as he progresses until he reaches that subtlest spiritual realm called the Bhuma, the abode of perfect bliss. Ramdas told another devotee, flowers are placed on a saint's head while performing his puja because the Sahasradala chakra is located there. It is the abode of God. Lakshmidas Maniyar was a devotee of an unique type. At the least touch of emotion, he used to go off like a dynamite. Emotion virtually drowned him, and thereafter he seemed to be totally unaware of what he talked and did. One day, there was bhajan as usual, and talks went on and on, till a late hour in the night. As Ramdas was sitting continuously for a long period, devotees made him lie down on a cot in the front yard and massaged his tired body. When this was going on, another devotee, Popat Bhai, sang some Gujarati songs and stotras. The condition of Lakshmidas was already tense with emotion. Popat Bhai's songs broke all barriers, and Lakshmidas started sobbing and behaving in a queer manner. Suddenly he jumped from the veranda into the yard and made for Ramdas with the outstretched hands, as in a delirious state. In a moment, Lakshmidas fell heavily on Ramdas's chest, his body weighing nearly 12 stones. For Ramdas, the weight was too much. He tried to raise the devotee using both his hands, but failed. Meanwhile, Lakshmidas had become unconscious. The friends sitting by Ramdas's side and others standing around were silently looking at the fun. Ramdas made signs to them to lift the heavy load pressing upon his chest. Then two of the friends near him tried in vain to lift Lakshmidas and had to call for the help of another. Then the three together managed to pull Lakshmidas away. Ramdas's breathing, which had almost stopped, was now resumed. Lakshmidas, not yet normal, was sobbing and crying loudly. Popat Bhai, singing with his eyes shut and not knowing what was going on, was continuing his stotras. Maganlal asked him to stop. When the singing ceased, Rashmidas became calm and laying himself down, fell fast asleep. Then followed loud snoring by the friend. In fact, Reva Ben's house was converted into a sawmill to that night. Next morning, news came to Ramdas that Lakshmidas was sitting up, absorbed in meditation. The friends were anxious about him. Ramdas assured them he would be all right. Ramdas left Danduka for Bombay on his way south. Any thoughts? On what has been read out from this chapter?
Key is over. He already spoke about the key. Mahant key.
That is over. Danduka. When one devotee asked Papa, what should be done for attaining salvation? What was the reply? Why did he reply like that when we have not realized? If we have realized, we would not have put that question now. Ramdas is always amused when people ask such a question. You are he, yourself, and you ask for the way of salvation. It is all your leela. We can take it that though we would have heard these words from Shastras and Mahatmas, just like now when we read, it doesn't stay with us. Similarly, it doesn't stay with us. Unless we keep on contemplating. How the four Mahavakyas, you remember? You have heard about it many times. The last Mahavakya, I don't know whether it is last. Normally we call it as last. What is that last? Aham Brahmasmi. I am. How many times you have heard? Have we applied? Have we really contemplated? You are that, Tattvamasi. Have we? Ayam Atma Brahma, Pratnanam Brahma, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. So this is what Papa said, amused. We have heard this many a time. We don't need any more to be here. If we hear one, if we try to contemplate deeper and deeper into it, that will take us to the goal. So this is what gently Prabhupada telling. You are only hearing. And then he said, you take the name, whatever name that will enable you to attain salvation. But while repeating the name, we all repeat the name, but we are yet to get salvation. Why? Then he says, while repeating the name, bear in mind that Ram, whose name you are chanting is your own real being. Ram dwells within you, you are his temple. The essence of Papa's teachings, not only Papa's, the essence of spirituality. So when we read this, again and again we are reminded. The moment I close the book, the moment I go out of this hall, I forget. Again I start my life from me and mine only. Everything I start from me and mine. So now we are driven, in spite of reading, in spite of chanting, in spite of doing bhajan, in spite of hearing, taking part in satsang, having darshan, still we start from our body, mind, intellect only. We refuse to accept that he is there behind our body, mind, intellect. This we have to keep on hammering. Simple. We hear a lot, we do a lot of spiritual practice, and then what happens? Whenever we open our mouth, to be very frank, when we start dealing with men and matters, we start from me only, my body, my mind, my relationship. Whereas in Papa's case, he always links with Ram. Ram made Ramdas to do it. So we are praying, when are you going to give me that? You are inside, you are making me to function as an individual. In that process, you make me to forget. You wanted to know whether I remember you. With the freedom you are given, I should have been remembering you, but instead of that, with the freedom that you have given, I go out. I go out to your creation, forgetting that it is your creation. Please think over it. And also about this world is, normally, when in Brahmajanavali, you would have heard that mantra, what is it? Brahma Satyam Jagannitya. So probably, we may think that what Adi Shankaracharya can do this is unreal. It is not that. It is transient. It is there, but it is transient, not eternal. Everything keeps on changing. So that also Papa reminds us, the world cannot be unreal. It all depends upon the meaning we attach to the word real. All things last for some length of time. It is not proper to call the word an illusion. A person has to pass through many stages before he attains perfection. There are different planes to cross, and they become finer and finer as he progresses, until he reaches the subtlest spiritual realm called the Bhuma. Bhumananda Swarupoham. Ahamevaham Abhyaya. Then about that emotional outburst. Elsewhere Papa says, though it comes just like that, not that he wills. But we should pray to him, not to be carried away by such emotional outburst. Ebullition, we call it as ebullition. We have seen many people We don't have to look down upon it. So long as it does not harm. Here in the case, he fell on Papa. So we have to ensure that there is a limit which we cannot control. We have to pray to him. That's also a gentle reminder to all of us. All of us may get such feelings, though probably not in this way. When an incident happens in our house, when something shocking, when something overjoyous incident happens, we all get that mood. Tears will come. An inexplicable feeling wells up in our heart. But we should know the Lakshman Rekha. It should not be injurious to the rest of the people. So that is also brought out. Most important from this chapter is this, that Ramdas is always amused when people ask such a question. You are he yourself, you ask for the way of salvation, it is all your Leela. Or Papa may take it as God is testing him. And he wants Papa to say in these words. And also one more reminder, though he has told us many a time, still we need this. While repeating the name, bear in mind that whose name you are Ram, whose name you are chanting is your own real being. The subtle and mysterious power. That is my real being. Ram dwells within you, you are his temple. So many points today Papa gave us. Acha, before we leave, can we say what remains with us? The last one is already dominates. God is within us, yes. While chanting Ram Nam, we should keep on reminding. Then
You are he.
Eh?
You are he.
We are he.
You are he.
Yeah. So while chanting Ram Nam, we should know that we are chanting the name of one who is ourselves. And then we start the good text with Mataji's concern. Pastonji, Mataji's great concern and Papa's readiness to respond. And then
Possessiveness.
free from possessiveness, free from any thought of discomforts. Seva should be unconditional. And then
Mahant Chavi. Mahant ka Chavi Chavi.
yeah, that Chavi.
Love,
Compassion and forgiveness. That is needed for knowing, realizing, having his darshan inside. Then, 3 types of men. Mudworm, housefly, honeybee. So now we will all try from housefly to honeybee. Then,
Name is a lubricant.
lubricant. What is lubricant?
Oil.
What is oil? Why oil is put?
Because it will go in another direction.
Softens God's name.
God's name.
Repeating.
Think about it, no? Why that word used, lubricant? Our spiritual practices go on like this, you know. It doesn't, we all know from our own experience that it is not impacting us. So, that means it has become routine. So, apply oil so that it becomes smoother, you know. Similarly, apply intensely what is needed for the smooth running. So, Ramnam should be done with that love. Then,
Shabrimala.
the acme of love, bhakti. To what height bhakti can take us?
Becomes childlike.
Bhakta becomes childlike.
Bhakta becomes
Because
childlike.
I was reading
Sure.
in the quest of God.
Yeah.
In the cave, Baba wrote that childlike nature and madness of Ram and supreme wisdom are all but one.
Yeah.
Papa asked to chant Ram Nam, some lads, then we chanted Om Shivata Darshan.
Papa had told her to complete some quota of Ramna.
And he fulfilled. So that means there's an assurance. Whatever sankalpa we make at the time of chanting, it will be fulfilled. Then, anything else? At least something you are carrying, no?
Satsang. It started with Satsang. Satsang is
Satsang.
Three things Papa was starting: Satsang, Ram Nam, Satsang, and then
Aim of
aim
life.
of life. Purpose of life.
So aim of life also you have to keep on thinking. Many people ask why they cannot hold on to this, though they know. Then he talked about the three types of men.
Salvation. Papa was amused.
four Mahabharata.
When you are that, why should you ask? You know, that is Papa's salvation. So it's a gentle reminder. How many times we have gone? People who have gone to Shabarimala will know. As soon as we reach before the Sannidhanam, there is a big board, Tattvamasi, in Malayalam. Initially, what is the connection between Tattvamasi and this temple? We were not able to understand. Then later on, we start thinking about it. That is the ultimate. I am here in the form of Shabarimala Ayyappan, but you are also that. You are also that, Tattvamasi. So the Veda, they have put it in crystallized form. These four Mahavakyas. Easy for us to remember. Difficult for us to experience, agree. But we keep on thinking. So whenever we do Ramnam, whenever we do Bhajan, whenever we do Satsang, whenever we do Swadhyaya, this should come back to us. Only to realize this. I am Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. So that is the quintessence of spirituality. So that is also pointed out here. On the whole, Papa enabled us to remember so many things, at least for the time being. Let us see how we keep on reminding ourselves. Unless we keep on working it out, just like when we were children, we were given, after attending the class, we were given the homework, to get it stamped in our heart. We remember Madras days when we used to go for Chimyanji's lectures. If we go with a free hand, Swamiji will definitely take us into task. This is not an entertainment, we will say. So we go there for studies. So we must carry the text, we must carry some paper and pen. Whenever Swamiji says something, we know. Another notebook also you will take. Because we may forget. And he says every day when you go back to your room, to your house, read. Otherwise you will forget. Tomorrow you will not have the connection. Though every day he will give a synopsis of yesterday's talk before he commences the next chapter. The idea is not to complete the portion or do anything. Idea is that something gets embedded in us and that will slowly sprout. That is enough. Not word by word, not chronological order, but something will sprout. I hope everybody got the message. Ayo. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Shri Ram.